evening, everybody. This is James. I'm flying solo tonight. Eric is up north in Seattle, northwest that is, at PAX, hanging out, doing his thing. But he'll be back next week. So yeah, I'll be flying the ship solo tonight, and we're just going to resume where we left off last week, where I was working on this shot where Calamity is launched up into the air, whoa, and then heads back down towards Warhog and lands on top of it, and then more chaos ensues after that. But yeah, right now I'm just focusing on this scene, and I have a lot of stuff kind of laid out here, but as you could, maybe if you notice from last week, I did add in a Warhog here for reference, because I'm going to actually draw the Warhog top view for today as well, and I'll keep kind of polishing up the assets here for Calamity as she's launched up in the air, just to kind of bridge this over. So we have Calamity climbing up on top of the cabinet here, and then the Warhog rams the cabinet and launches her up in the air. So if we play this real time, you'll see thunk, whoa, oof, and lands on top of the Warhog. So we have a combination of a little bit of animatics here. I mean, there's some animation kind of going here, but it's really rough. But and this is the stuff I'm working on tonight, but eventually we'll lay out the rest of this stuff. You'll see this red line here is kind of bleeding over into other shots. Just ignore it for these other shots. It's meant to be right here, but right here I could probably get rid of it. Let me see. Yeah, that's the shot there. So I'll take out the red line there. But the red line here is my arc and the sketching of Calamity, following the arc, and then eventually landing on the Warhog. Okay, so we'll get to doing some work here now that we've set up some stuff. As you may have seen before when Eric and I are hanging out, I'll bring in assets from our different file libraries, like Calamity Jane's asset library here. As I build it up, I grab poses as well as it's actually kind of a palette, her color palette as well. So I sample stuff and I actually use it when I'm drawing Calamity. And the same with the Warhog. The Warhog has all the color palette stuff I need to actually draw him here. So for tonight, I think I'll start here and I'll start drawing in the Warhog. So for now, I'll start with the bigger shape, which is this brown. So I'll sample the brown, and you'll see here I got the brown here. And I'll make a keyframe on this shot. This shot is, oh, we need to actually label the shot. Oh, I'll do that later, but we'll call this, let's see, what's the last thing that I have labeled here? I'll just call this, for now, this is completely breaking protocol, but I'm actually going to call this scene, I'm just going to make a guess, scene 55B. Seems like a pretty reasonable number to pick from, so I'm just going to label it that, and I'll probably update this later. But for all intents and purposes, when I make new assets and library items, I'll call out things that's scene 55B. So let's see. So I'll go ahead and start drawing stuff here. And again, because I'm not really relying on line work, all I'm really relying on is color and shape. I'm not too concerned about it being perfect. Now here's something that's kind of interesting. I sampled the Warhog color here, and it looks like this kind of brown, but I don't know if you can see it on your monitors or not, but the brown changes when I drop it over here. I'm stumped as to when that happened with the Adobe Animate update. I gotta look into it, but the color here, according to the fill, is this number, 996633. I'm gonna copy it, just so I have it in my memory. Now let's go back over to this Warhog color here, and if I look at this one, way different. AC602F. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm a little bit stumped. So if you happen to know, leave a comment or something, or that's probably the best way for me to kind of see that myself. Yeah, it's a little bit odd to me, and I haven't figured out the solution to that yet, but that's the workaround. Anyway, so as I turn on ghosting for it, I can kind of start shaping the Warhog a little bit. And again, this is my drawing underneath is pretty loose, but I mean, it gives me enough of a kind of a hint as to how I'm going to actually have the final artwork for us tonight. So as long as it kind of feels close to the Warhog, I'm not too obsessed with on model right now, and maybe as I go into more of a final animation pass, maybe I'll go ahead edit these assets a little bit. But for now, this is pretty okay. You'll see all I'm doing is dragging around vertex points, basically, and shaping the body of the warhog as I go. And I'm doing some drawing, but really I'm also doing a lot of shaping and just kind of, I don't know, in a weird way, it looks like kind of like sculpting the character a little bit with vectors and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'll paint in the leg here, sculpt in the leg, that is, here we go. So we have that. Let me turn back on the shape of it. It's not bad. I will go in and kind of, I'm going to cheat this back over again. I wanted to feel that plumb. It kind of feels weird to have that little piece of neck kind of carved out. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab this eye color red. As far as I know, it should be that red, but let me see something here. Let me actually go into it. Now that I don't trust Adobe Animate, but this red, FF and a bunch of zeros. Okay, great. And now I'll make this a group, so that way I don't paint on top, paint over it, paint my red on top of that and it goes away. You see that? But it's actually there. I just have to make it a group. So there's a group of that. I can slide this back over. There. Now they're on top of each other. Just two pieces of paint, blobs of paint that are over each other here. Let me go back to ghosting this, and I'll slide that eye closer there, and let's shape this out now. So we'll just kind of push around the vectors a little bit, get to what we want. And also when I'm shaping vectors, at least for me, this is more, maybe it's more intuitive of just how many years I've been using Adobe Animate now, over almost close to 25 years now. I kind of naturally try to shape things by, you'll see how I carved down. That's just one point now that exists instead of a whole bunch of points. And because Adobe's thinking about that one point, I can actually just shape it out like this. And it's thinking about a lot less points, to kind of interpolate between. But then if I add another one, like I'm doing here, you see a little hollow circle that's kind of following my mouse. I've got another point. Back in the day, we used to try to be as efficient as we could with our points, because we would use that Adobe Flash Player to display animated content. And the more points you have, the more it was lag. Now it's kind of just ingrained in me, and I always kind of try to go simpler. Less is more, simpler is better. So for better or worse, that's what I tend to do a lot when I'm drawing in Adobe Animate. Is I'll actually shape things almost to a fault of making them oversimplified. And that was part of the reason why with Calamity Jane I try to do that as well. As far as her designs, they're all flat shapes, no lines. It's part of the other reason why we did it the way we do it here. Let's see. This eye can be a little bit smaller, obviously, because the perspective, the extreme perspective there. All right, let's check this out. See how that looks. We'll turn back on we'll unghost this. Okay, not too bad. I'm going to try to polish off this drawing a little bit. Like right now the legs are kind of fighting with perspective, so I will kind of add this way, go this way a little bit, kind of make it feel like we're looking more down on it instead of outward. And I'm just kind of trying to give the hint of that. This shot's pretty fast with how much work I'm doing into it, but putting into it. But it's necessary. That's kind of where we're at. We have to kind of make this scene work. So I want to have at least some hints of the perspective being right as Calamity's getting launched up. Alright, we're almost done with the warhog, actually. We just have to kind of add these brown details, which is next. Alright, so I'll paint in his head. And again, I'm going to actually paint over here first. I'll just make it this, a big giant stripe of that. And I will drop the color, and I'll turn this into a grouped object, and I'll bring it back over here. Already we can see that almost, because of this one line, which is actually just a big splotch of paint, it helps to kind of illustrate that we're looking on top of the warhog. So we're using shapes in the place of lines in a way. It's a weird theory, but we're using larger swaths of shapes to kind of help guide the eye to go, oh, okay, we're looking on top of the warhog. I can see the top of his head, see the top of his hair, etc. So I'll go back to ghosting, and I'm going to kind of trace my original drawing a little bit. I don't have to be perfect with it, but let's just go with it. All right. And I'm just going to trace over, try to get some tufts of hair here. But now something that's kind of interesting. Let me look back at our warhog asset library. We usually have 1, 2, 3, 4 tufts of hair. You know, and how much I want to follow that, I guess I should, because I've made those rules already. So we'll do the same here. We'll give him 4 tufts of hair. Normally with animation, we like to do rules of 3, but for some reason I was a rebel and I went with 4. What do you do? I mean, that's just kind of what I happened to wake up and think about that day was 4 versus 3. Well, now I have to do 4 pieces of hair versus 3. Well, oh well, what can you know, I guess I'll just kind of work with what I did back as a legacy thing. Not that big of a deal, but I think it works for what we want. Alright, and we'll come back out again, and I'll turn on colors. Great, so far so good. Eyebrows, I'll put the eyebrows in here. And already look, see the colors are so different with the brown. Man, it's driving me crazy. This is something that has not happened in the past streams for like the past few years actually. So I'm a little bit stumped on that. I just don't understand why it's doing that. But I'll copy the swatch into the RAM. I'll go back over here. And I will go ahead and paste in color. Let's see if it's updated. I think it looks better. It looks the same. Here, this is a good way to cheat and see. I'll copy this. I'll go to this. Paste it in. Does it blend in? Yeah, that color is the right color. Gosh. Anywho, all right. So we'll now do the eyebrows, and I'll go into the same hair asset, and I'll just do it here. I'll do the same this way and that way. For his eyebrows, looks like it's pretty much 3 spikes, so I'll once again do that. Oh, so for that day, I followed the rule of 3. So, okay, great. Go here. There's 1, and I'll shape it to 2, and finally 3 will be here. Curve it up a little bit. That works, and then I'll do the same on this side. I'll give him 3 hair tufts for his eyebrows. To make it feel more even, I'm just pushing the middle tuft a little bit more to the center, and I'll bring this front one a little bit farther back. All right, let's zoom that out. Let's see how that looks. Great. I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, I could probably tweak this a little bit on that far eye, so I might go ahead and do that. I'll probably shrink this down. I'll turn this into a group, so I don't ruin anything else, but I'll probably shrink it down a little bit, kind of skew it. Right about there, maybe. And this guy, I'll do the same, and shrink it down. Feels okay, but I need to rotate this a little bit. And I'll bring out the eye just a little bit. Okay, well, for that far eye, I'm still not completely happy with it, but I mean, it's kind of doing the trick, but what I'm going to do now is I'll turn that into a group, turn this into a group, go into the eyes, and that will be a group 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these down to paint, because right now I'm fighting with the eyebrow and the eye, and I'm kind of going back and forth between two groups, you know, two groups that are not symbols yet, and I am too lazy to make symbols right now. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to break these down. Now they're all their own individual thing, and I can just kind of just play around with these two guys by themselves. It's almost like I want to, well, let me go to my red line real quick. Go to that red line layer. I'm going to do a little bit of tracing. So right now, this is roughly the midline, roughly here, and then it goes up and into the head. So I'm just doing a little sketchy thing here. So the snout kind of goes like that. So I'm just kind of giving myself some landmarks to work with, because I'm kind of falling out with, because the curse of, it's a blessing and a curse to use shapes and not use lines. So right now I am kind of struggling with trying to find a landmark to put that extra eye that I'm not happy with. And then right here where his mouth is, and then all his teeth. It feels close, but I need to kind of get just a little bit farther out, roughly there, maybe. Yeah. Okay, that feels better. I just need to make sure I had the right setup for his eyes. And the funny thing is, I'm kind of fretting over to this pose, and it doesn't really matter because your eye is going to be going on calamity, going up and into the air anyway. So it doesn't really matter. As long as I give a hint of what's happening with the warhog, I should be good. It almost feels like this eye is a little bit too big, so I'm going to kind of go down a little bit more, scoot it in a little bit, and shrink it down because it looks a little bit too straight on. Yeah, there we go. That's feeling better. Yeah, but at a certain point, you can't keep working with it. As long as you get it kind of close, you can always move on and fix it later, but that's already feeling okay. Let's see, the next thing left to do, let me get rid of this. This teeth is, I don't need that guide anymore. I think I can kind of wing it. I am going to take this brown, make sure I'm on the right layer. Yep, I am. And I will now carve out a mouth, make that a group. And then we'll bring that up a little bit. And I'll now shape this just a bit. All right, the mouth line shape is there, and I need a little bit of teeth. So that's just white. I don't have to really sample white. We have it kind of built into our palette anyway. Because I'm not going to see the white here, I'm just going to go gray for teeth right now and just kind of carve out some teeth. And I'll turn that into a group. And I'll put it up there. And of course, we're going to shrink it down a little bit. And now let's keep it gray for now. And let's shape out some teeth. All right. And we can make that white. We're not going to be able to see it because it'll kind of disappear, but you'll see the hint of it. Once I have an actual background in there, we'll see the hint of it. But let's see here. Copy this, and that's right there. So, okay, we're fine there. I'm just going to shift it down there. Now it's underneath the lips, so we're good there. And again, we'll see that a little bit later. Let's see. Let's go back to our reference. We have warhog has a little squiggle tail, cutesy little tail, right? In my animatic, this is before we kind of finalized designs for the warhog. So this long tail is not really the model for him anymore. So him or her, we have female warhogs too, but we're just gonna shape out, just get the impression of a little squiggle tail. And I'm not too obsessed with this. Just as long as we have something there that kind of sticks out. And that's fine. Okay, looks like we need hooves, so we'll do some hooves. And I'm going to probably just use the same brown layer and paint over the top to give us some hooves. So let's see. And we'll make sure those hooves look sharp. Everything about the warhog is supposed to be dangerous looking for the most part, except for the little roly-poly body, which kind of gives it that cutesy feel too, a little bit. It's kind of unintentional. Because, oh, so cute, ah! And then you freak out because they're razor sharp and full of meanness. All right, so that. I could probably... That's more of a side profile view of that hoof, so I'm gonna tweak it a little bit. I'm gonna go that feels a little better. Yeah, and then one more set over here. And we'll shape these to kind of match that. And let's zoom back out again. All right, that works. Okay, we got everything else, got the teeth, got everything else good. All right, we're in pretty good shape for the warhog for this shot. And then he lands on it. Okay. All right, so let's just watch this in real time again. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, I think we're in pretty good shape for now. I think I might call it good, and I'll keep on going. Probably going to next week, I guess, unless I get some more time this week later on. But we still got Calamity to work on. Again, we have most of our poses here, but I want to do a little bit more massaging during this whole shot. But maybe we'll pick this up for next week. All right, everybody. Well, make sure if you want to keep tabs on what we're doing with Calamity Jane, you can go to calamityjane.rocks and keep tabs with us over there. And again, we stream every Monday night, Pacific time, 6:30. So I'm so biased saying Pacific time first, but East Coast time is 6:30. No, Pacific time is 6:30, and East Coast time is 9:30. And yeah, Eric will be with us next week, and we'll geek out about more talk with games and movies and TV shows, etc. All right. Hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will catch up later. Take care. Bye.